Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, to create massive awakened impact for millions of souls around the planet, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. And hello, everyone. Glad to have you here. We have an amazing guest here today, Leah Davis. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be joining you.
So I can't help. I am a channel, so I say kind of things you wouldn't expect. But sometimes, so like I'm getting like, yeah, you're such a shaman, and you're you're here to download the the code, so to speak, that people are needing right now to help them clear their trauma and get connected with what's the realities for women of color and all that sort of stuff. And it's so, to me, it's so deep. It's so deep to me. So I'm grateful, and I know it is for you. So I'm grateful to have you on talking about all this today. So let's go talk about Leah a little bit more. Before we do that, if you want to continue to get more of this awesomeness here, go ahead, smash the subscribe button. Love that subscribe button. It didn't do nothing bad to you. Go ahead, love it up. Okay, all right. Let's go dive in. Okay, Leah Davis is a dedicated wealth and wellness coach for women of color, and she is committed to helping her clients achieve economic stability. Leah has a profound awareness of unique challenges women of color experience as they transform their wealth legacy. Leah's coaching expertise spans many areas. Here are a few. She helps her clients create healthier spending habits, cultivate an abundance mindset, increase liquid savings, navigate the financial challenges of entrepreneurship, prepare for meetings with financial advisors and financial planners. Leah was a seasoned financial advisor before beginning her career as a wealth and wellness coach. In her role as a financial advisor, Leah guided her clients as they navigated the challenges of planning for their financial future and establishing generational wealth. Leah is a certified domestic violence advocate and brings a trauma informed approach to her work with clients. She understands the complexities of gender based violence, addiction, substance abuse, and recovery, which I'm really looking forward for us to bring love and attention to. Leah creates a safe space for her clients to feel seen and heard as she guides them towards wealth building. So, again, Leah, it's great. I'm so grateful to have you today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so um, yeah, and we'll start off here just because it's fun to. One of our connection points, we are like, oh my God, we're both into like science of mind sort of stuff, metaphysics, and then we're like, oh, we both do Kundalini yoga, and and we had a lot of fun, starting to get to know each other, and seeing it was funny. Like there were certain parallels and whatnot with things that we love, right? So
Yep.
so it's cool to discover together.
Yes, yes. And you never know, right? When you just take the time to get to know somebody and ask questions, and then you kind of uncover like, oh, we have some commonalities here. I mean, and even the way that we met, which was through like a kindness circle, I think,
Yeah.
and here we are today. So I absolutely love it.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on right now, and with around the areas of Black Lives Matter, we've got the very in this particular this issue, we're talking about women of color, and as it relates to the topic that we're on today, and the power of healing from trauma. There is so many different levels and layers of trauma, and particularly we're going to be focused on that, obviously, with women of color today. And I'll also say, for people that happen to be listening, hey, I just will say as a bonus, some of this will absolutely apply it to other people as well. So listen in for that. And also, I do think this is a great educational opportunity for everyone to learn more about the different trauma, myself included.
Mm,
So there's a lot that we all have to learn about so many things. So I
mm.
mean, this is an important topic right now. So Leah, can you tell us about a little bit about your, your background, your story, and how did you, go down this path to be here, helping people as a wealth and wellness coach for women of color?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for giving me this time to share a little bit about me. So, of course, my journey started in childhood, and I always bring this up because it's really, really key to also what molded me to get into this path of service for women of color. So I'm half Black and I'm half Mexican. Okay, so I tell people like I'm the two like persecuted groups in this nation. So I understand both how it is to walk the world as a Black woman and also as a Latina. And in my family, that I'm an adult survivor of child domestic violence, basically meaning my father was very abusive, and he also had some mental health challenges that we learned later on in life. And then I was also raised in a very strict, dogmatic religion as a Jehovah Witness, and that in itself was also a very controlling environment, where I had to separate myself from children, activities, things at school. I mean, I had to have shields on and blinders on to holiday parties and all those things. And also because I was dealing with the trauma at home that was happening in our family, but we were also out at, church gatherings and things, like we're the perfect family. So at a very young age, I was taught to stuff all my emotions, ignore what's going on around me. And that in itself also led to my ways of just like getting by, and then later on in life, I was kicked out of the religion because I actually wanted to be, because I knew I didn't want to be involved in it. So I was 16 years old, and then I was ostracized from the entire community. I lost my father, half of my family on both sides, mother, father side, neighbors, community. So I'm 16 years old. There's all this trauma that I've experienced, and not once did anybody ask me what was going on, if I was okay. And so by the time I was 18 years old, I was a young single mother. And then from there, I was just launched into wanting to make sure that I could provide for my child. And this is without so much support from people that I knew in my community. I did have my mother, thank goodness. She stayed right by my side and still is to this day. And from that point, I just started working and I started trying to understand money. I just saw people around me that just seemed to live a different life, which again, as a child being raised as Jehovah Witness, I always saw people, living a different life than mine. And they looked like they were doing pretty good and they were nice people. Unlike, the way I was taught was stay away from those individuals. They're horrible, bad people of the world is what they say in the religion. And so, I just started, about say my mid 20s, I started looking into like, how could I understand money? And I saw an Oprah episode, I think Susie Orman was on there, and there was a whole conversation about debt and this whole concept of debt, hearing this word. And I literally just printed out, it was Oprah's debt diet, and I had a binder and I printed things out and I just started reading about it. And I had a little bit of credit card debt that I'd accumulated. And so I started finding ways to pay that off. Then I learned about life insurance. I'm a young single mother. I should probably get some for my kid. And then I realized, oh, one of my friends married to a guy, I think he does life insurance, and he was a financial advisor, actually at a firm where I ended up going to when I got licensed. And so I talked to him, and he's standing in this room in his office, and he's got all these, figures and numbers and talking to me. And it was so confusing, but I didn't let him know that I didn't understand. I just nodded my head like, okay, what do I need to do? And so I just went forward with it, and I opened a little retirement account, and I got some life insurance. And then later on, it was like my late 20s, I really wanted to find some sort of a career. And so I was actually approached by a financial services firm. And so from there, I began to entertain the idea of, hey, maybe the best way that I could learn about money is if I'm in the industry. Like, what better way is there? So why don't I just take these exams, pass, and then I'm going to have this amazing, thriving business as a financial advisor, and it's going to be awesome. And I'm going to make a ton of money, and I'm going to educate myself and my family. And that's not what happened. So I did get my licenses. I did go join the firm. I got excellent training. And then it came to, go out after your market, go to those in your natural market. Well, everyone in my natural market, blue collar workers, had no money. And I was supposed to go and hit them up and say, hey, roll over your retirement account with me, or hey, get this big fat insurance policy. And I was stuck. I wasn't able to really do much with that. So I started focusing on the women that I was meeting and seeing at all the networking events that I was going to. And I thought, a lot of these women here, I'm from the Bay Area as well, in Northern California. I thought there's so many women that I'm meeting across in so many ethnicities. No one, is anyone talking to them? And I started putting the pieces together that this was a missing group, but yet we were everywhere. And so I thought, okay, this is the avenue I'm going to take. Market. I'm going to work for women of color as a financial advisor. And meanwhile, my business also was not thriving because I was also dealing with a very toxic and abusive relationship, where this is the second one in my adult life that I was dealing with. And then there was also some physical abuse that was happening as well. So here I am going to work. I'm doing what I learned as a child, which is act like everything's okay. I'm wonderful. I've got it. And yet I was going back home and being treated the way that I was being treated and living in such a harmful environment that was really, really bad for me. So when I had the courage to finally leave that relationship, it was almost 8 years that we were together, that really the abuse started probably within the first 6 months. So pretty much that entire time, there were things that were going on that I couldn't take it anymore. And so I did not want my children to grow up in this environment. So I ended that. And from there, started rebuilding my life. And then I started learning about the importance of just understanding for myself the trauma that I experienced. So I began to go to domestic violence support groups. I had a therapist. I really started wanting to understand why this had happened to me, because I didn't want this for my children. I didn't want this for the rest of my life. I wanted to end this cycle. I didn't have the terminology then at that point that that's what I was doing. And so from there, I became a certified domestic violence advocate. And then after that, I was approached by one of my mentors, an amazing woman who is behind a financial coaching certification. And she asked if I wanted to be coached by one of her participants in her program. And I thought, sure, I'll do it. And it was when I got the financial coaching, after I had all this experience as a financial advisor and in the industry, it was when the light bulb went off for me. Like, okay, this is it right here. And it made such a huge difference in my life. And I thought, this is making a huge difference in my life. Plus, I knew from being a domestic violence advocate that 1 in 4 women at some point in their life is going to be a victim of some sort of intimate partner violence. I thought, all the women that are here, 1 in 3, are you kidding me? So there's a huge need. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go into this a little more and dig a little deeper. And then that's how it all came together. So from my experience as a child, my professional experience, and then being coached, that's how I became a wealth and wellness coach for women of color.
Wow. Wow. So there's just so many things that we could dive into with everything you just shared. And
Yeah.
I think you're in a very I don't know, I mean, somewhat unique situation in terms of your own background as a woman of color, right?
Mhm.
So some people might assume you're, I mean, because people just don't know, right? They might think
Yeah.
you're only Latina, or they might think you're black or whatever,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
that comes with its own set of issues, I think, right? So it's just a feeling I have around it. So and then, but I think that makes you so powerful to serve women of color, like the fact that you are Latina and black both, right? So I think that is really powerful because you have intersection points to understand both, both aspects of that. And I think like one of the things that I don't know came up as a thought, has come up as a thought, is there's been a lot of going on, rightfully so, attention, at least however it comes out, it's coming out, but like attention towards people of color, period. I mean, and then and at the same time, like you've got so much attention to the issues for black people, and then but there's so and they're sort of the energy, some attention in some ways. People talk about people coming from Mexico, and then all the conversations about all that, and but like there's a lot there's I feel like there's a lack of education around um, overall for people of color that are Latino and Latina. I mean, I think there's a huge lack of education in terms of the challenges that that you all have, that that have some, some universality to it. Everybody has their own experience, right? But then there's some that are somewhat universal, I think, among whatever the population is, whatever the issue is, right? So I don't know. I just feel like breaking all this down, like, because I feel like I feel like I feel like really recognizing, that, how, I guess my question is when I feel into the Latina energy as an intuitive, and I think, like, even before you you told me again, because you told me before about the abuse, that you're dealing with. It's like, I I'm like, I I'm guessing that, I mean, maybe it's a stereotype, but I think in the Latina community, or, when we talk about from that aspect, I think the rates of domestic violence are probably higher. I don't know if that's true. Then, let's say, I don't know if it's true or not, but I think it might be higher, than, let's say, I don't know, white people, for example. I don't know it for a fact, but it's a feeling I have, and I probably read about those things because my background is psychology and all that stuff. So, and I think, those are all part of the unique challenges. So when you're talking about your own trauma, and then the trauma others are experiencing, and that, even that one way, I mean, when people are, because it makes perfect sense to me why you do the work you do. You're like, how can I think about thriving when I'm dealing with this? This, the trauma that I'm dealing with abuse or whatever it may be. But so how did you possibly move through that? I mean, because some people don't, right? So some people stay stuck there and they're not able to move on, but you were able to somehow move from that, like you did as earlier in your life with Jehovah's Witness situation for you, and then with the abuse. And so, but how, I mean, how do you do that? And how do you help other people to do that, to move forward, to empower your life, and then
Yeah.
help other people, and then, build wealth?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. I did want to also talk about really quickly, you mentioned, the levels of abuse that may be higher in the Latino community and
Yeah.
or the Black community versus the white.
Yeah.
It's if 1 in 3 women are experiencing it,
No
there's,
difference.
there's no difference.
No
It's one
difference. Okay. Okay.
from the
Okay.
CDC, right? So you're
Okay.
walking down the street, 1 in 3 of the women that you see at some point in their life is going to experience that. And that's just intimate partner violence. That's not childhood violence.
Right.
And when we speak about domestic violence, I want to be clear about what that is. It's emotional, verbal, physical, even economic abuse, financial abuse is a form of domestic violence toward
Mhm.
a person. So, it's massive amounts of people, and it goes across any economic, family situation. So those individuals that are of a higher earning capacity and income earning, theirs experience is a little bit different, right? Because they're not dealing with the poverty and they're not dealing with the systemic barriers as much as somebody who is in a lower income community where it's a daily thing like that, right? It could be more, it could be, emotional, verbal, and definitely the economic abuse side. And when I say economic abuse, that's where somebody, like, it's interesting. There could even be a woman who's the primary breadwinner in her household, and she's dealing with economic abuse with a partner who's not working. And that person is just sucking them dry and taking their money and ruining their credit and doing all kinds of things. I mean, it's just, there's so much here. And that's why I do what I do. So, and I'm sorry, back to what it was. Your question was, you wanted to understand how it is that I got through these different elements of my life. I think, honestly, it's just a part of it's my soul's journey. Like, for me to have been really young and to have been surrounded in this very controlling environment, I knew something was not right. Like, I couldn't explain it. It was just this inner knowing that this was not meant for me. And so whichever way it manifested and how I got out at the age of 16, and told them I don't want to be involved with this. I mean, this huge, I knew what I was risking because I knew my father would shun me. I knew what I was losing. And yet at the same time, I'm also pretty young and I didn't really quite understand the gravity of it. And even then it was years later when I'm like, oh man, that really screwed me up. That was wrong, to do that to just a teenage child, like really, right? It's a teenager. And so to your point about people that say stuck, I mean, my first abusive relationship was from the age of 19 to 23. That was emotional and verbal. There was nothing physical. And then later on, and when I was 27, when I met my child's father, then it added on, it progressed into some physical elements. And when you're an individual who is in the midst of dealing with a harm doer, an abusive individual, and you're in that activated fight, flight, freeze response a lot of the time, that person can walk into a room, that you're going to have to go home. It could be at somebody at work. You may have a coworker or colleague or a boss who is, an abusive, narcissistic person. And, you're constantly in that state. And when you're in that state and when there's so much going on and you're in that state of crisis, it's practically impossible to think of a different life and how to get there, because you're just kind of, that you said, stuck, right? So you're in survival mode. And it isn't until something happens, either internally or externally, where it's like, I can't do this anymore, And so for me, in my circumstance, I saw one of my children get harmed, and that was my wake-up call, because I grew up and I knew that when I had my first child, that I was not going to lay a hand on them the way that my father did to me and my brothers. And so when I saw that path was leading in that relationship with what happened with my oldest child, that was my wake-up call. Even though I had years of dealing with things myself with that individual, it was when I saw that. And that was just, for me, I no matter what cost, I was not going to tolerate that. And I was not going to turn a blind eye to that. So for me, that's what happened, in my journey to be able to get out of that situation. But something I want to be able to say too is, oftentimes what we don't realize as somebody who's in a circumstance like that is, like for me, I just wanted the pain to stop. I just wanted the chaos and pain to stop. I didn't realize what I was really seeking was inner peace and harmony and love in my life, because I didn't even know what that was. I mean, this is years of me not having any healing towards what I experienced. So I had no idea. When a person leaves a situation, especially if it's a woman who's dealing with an abusive man, woman, or whoever their partner is, when you leave, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to end. And it can actually get worse before it gets better. And it can get worse because now, when you remove yourself and you reduce the exposure of that individual, they may have some other forms in which they're going to continue to perpetuate their abuse. It may be through the family court system. It may be financial. They might have ruined your credit. They may show up at your job, causing problems at work where you lose your job. I mean, there's a wealth of things that can happen where they will continue to be. There's a phrase that I learned, which is being a designated victim. So I thought, okay, he's moved on. He's got another relationship. Why are things still happening? And it was in one of my support groups, the facilitator said, well, there's a phrase called you're the designated victim. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's totally what's going on here. And so, that's why I'm so passionate about helping women of color understand what it takes, what it means to heal from the trauma, because when we're able to heal ourselves from the pain that we've experienced, we can acknowledge it. We rip that Band-Aid off. We got to stop being in denial and be willing to do the process and to do the work to heal ourselves. Whenever there's going to continue to be people in our lives that show up. I mean, I don't know if you've heard about it, but we did have a former president that, there were a lot of people who've experienced trauma that were totally activated and just in trauma response to the president. Okay, so there's going to be people in our lives that are going to continue to show up. But when we come from a place of being able to be healed, we can spot them, we know it, and we're able to just be around that person or work with that person, or to just be able to come from a place of knowing that what they say or do is not going to hurt me. I'm safe. So it's really about knowing that we're safe, because if you're a child or an adult and you don't ever have that sense of safety, it just translates into so many different elements of our life, including our finances.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know that it's like, so many challenges. Like I said, I have a background to some degree in these things because I've worked with, some of this in my profession in the past, and it is. That's why I'm really remarking on the fact that you were able to, move from that, be able to get out of that, so to speak, and then heal from that. And so really recognizing you, knowing that I don't know what the percentages are there either, of how many women are able to do that, or choose to do that, however you want to look at it, but are able to choose. Because I get that. That's why I see it's so challenging. I guess that's what I'm looking for, is like, for you, it came in as just a that's it kind of thing. I just can't do it anymore. I just, like a inner cracking point where it was a choice. In that moment, you were able to choose because something rose up inside of you and are like, okay, I'm doing this. Um, I was wondering though, when people come to you, as I'm guessing they do, and they're like, I'm in this situation and I'm getting abused, and yeah, I could use your help. What am I supposed to do? So, seeing as you did move through it and you're helping people now, I'm wondering what guidance do you have to give to women of color that are caught up maybe in that right now and trying to move on and empower themselves.
Yes, thank you for asking that question. And that's one point I did want to make as well, is I didn't do this alone. Thankfully I had a place to go, which was my mother's home. If my mother wasn't around, I would have had to knock on the doors of some friends, and then I would have to be at the mercy of just trying to find a place to go. So thankfully my mother was there. So I was very blessed to be able to have that. So for those individuals that don't have, that's another reason why a woman especially may choose to stay. Some do choose to stay because they have the shelter, they have their needs met, and they're going to make the choice to stay there. Others may leave, but because they're not able to get through economically and be financially stable because of the things that the abuser is doing, they'll go back. And the other thing too is studies show that on average, it takes a victim to leave 7 times before they actually do it. So it's not just like, okay, I'm done, that's it. I mean, there were times I wanted to leave, or I tried to, and I was like, you get sucked right back in. It's that cycle. And so for now, the women that come to me that are currently in situations, so I am actually, the market that I serve are the women that have gotten out of the situation. So for those who come to me that are currently in it, I have a breadth of resources that I send them to, so that they can have that foundation of support to be able to get themselves out of it, right? And so the women that I typically work with have already gotten out of a situation and they're rebuilding their life financially, but yet there's still that block. There's a lot of fear. There's procrastination. There's, not really understanding what it is that their purpose is or how to be able to get there. And they're still realizing that there's something about money that they're scared about, or they're following their dreams, or some fear that they just can't seem to shake. Those are the women that I really enjoy working with, because there's really not much available for those who've already left the situations. There's so much resources and support and organizations available for those who are in one that are newly getting out of a situation. But what happens to those who have been out of it for a little while? Then what? There's got to be a whole network of resources available there to help keep these women stable so that they don't go back and find themselves in another relationship or in another situation that will then have them succumb to more trauma, right? And then they're going to be exposing themselves to that trauma again without having the adequate resources for themselves to be able to navigate it.
Yeah. Yeah. So given that you help people more so on the other side, and yet you have resources to help people if they're stuck in it. Well, I do want to touch on that, because if we even make a big change in one person, I know it's like, okay, in my brain, I'm like, yeah, people could Google it. There's tons of resources, but if you're in trauma, you may not even think of that. I mean, who knows? So what are, like, just one or two, even anything like resources for women that might be in that situation that they can utilize to help move themselves from that? And then we'll get into more where you focus with people after that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, honestly, and it's true, Google is there. And I will say there are those individuals who are still in harmful situations, the harm doer may have access to their internet and phones.
Yeah.
So, so first and foremost, they got to be able to find the ability to research and to find this information without getting caught, right? So whether it's going to a library or using a friend's phone or something, and just finding a local shelter or domestic violence organization and reaching out and specifically requesting to be connected to a domestic violence advocate. So domestic violence advocate is somebody who's gone through a certification process through the state to also have access to the local resources where somebody lives to be able to help them be able to get out of the situation. There's counseling available. They could go to some support groups that may be local or online now these days, right? And again, because of the pandemic, the violence has risen in homes for many reasons, and it's made it even harder for somebody who's in a situation to get out. And so for those who are not able to leave due to this pandemic that's happening, it's about being able to find a way to reduce exposure to that individual in the home. So knowing what their schedule is, when that person comes home, finding a way to be in another room, limiting contact as much as possible, if it's possible, and just really doing what you can to take care of yourself in the meantime. So reducing the exposure to that individual and creating a plan so that you can do that to get through your day. And then also it's a great time because we can't go anywhere to also be trying to think about what could be the next thing that I can do so that when I'm able to just be able to get out of this situation. So I think, here in the Bay Area, I know that some libraries are open. So I always say library, someone can go to a library and use a computer and use a phone to just start making phone calls and connect with local organizations or their domestic violence advocate and having those conversations to see what they can do so that when the time is right for them, they can go ahead and get out of that situation.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Leah, for sharing all that. That's it's empathic person. I'm just like, oh my God, just whatever we can do to help
Yeah.
people that are in that situation. So
Mhm.
thank you for and just remember that lots of people have been able to do it, and if you reach out for help and support, there are people there to help you and in the process. Um, so once you're meeting people, they've already had experience all those sorts of things, and they're maybe towards the other side, or maybe they're still dealing with a little bit of that, right? Where you're still what did you say? Call it the what victim was it again? The
Designated victim.
designated is the word I'm looking
Yeah.
for. Designated victim, right? So they might
Yeah.
still be dealing with that. How how can we go about I know one of the things you talk about is I do want to get this in today, and we only have so much time, but you talk about, which I thought was interesting, is with this trauma, this particular trauma, and I suppose trauma overall, you talk about normalizing the conversation about trauma and why that's important to you. And I'd love for you to address that now because I suppose, my first thought that come to me that is a lot of times things like this, like many issues, we want to sweep it under the rug. Like,
Mhm.
let's not talk about it. It's
Mhm.
uncomfortable, and we want to hope that it goes away, just like the victim feels that way, right? Like, I just hope it goes away. I hope it doesn't happen again. And so, but yeah, why is this so important? This normalizing of this conversation around trauma. Why is this important?
Yeah, um I personally feel it's so important because just literally based first on my own experience that there was a time in my life where I couldn't even say the word dad. I couldn't even think of my father. I couldn't without me just like shut down, stomach tight and anger and I just would want to explode or I'd go and curl in and just want to fall apart and cry. And so for me, when I was going through therapy with my therapist and having those kind of conversations, and then from there, having other conversations in these safe environments with other women, for me to be able to talk, I can talk about things now. I don't go into great detail, but I can talk about this right now. Like there was a time where I wouldn't be able to have this conversation. I'd probably just start crying. And so now, I know how much work that I've done on myself to be able to, first of all, have context over what happened, right? Based on all the information that I've learned over the years. And then when I say normalizing it, it's like when a woman says, this is what happened to me, And then another woman says, you know what, this happened to me too. It's opening that door for conversation and vulnerability so that we know that we're not alone. And quite often when it comes to, especially in the Black community, women are strong, they, power through everything. They, and I hear so often with many of the Black women that I work with is that they are the ones that everyone comes to for advice and support. And who do they go to? They're most often the first ones to graduate college or start a business, and they have everything falling on their shoulders and they're falling apart. And on top of that, you don't talk about these things because that's not a sign of strength. And we don't share these kinds of things because then that's just, having our family, business out there. Well, when it comes to being able to have a safe container, when there's whether it's one-on-one or with other women who've gone through similar things, they can understand your culture. It really opens that path for healing, and then just like kind of normalizing it. Like, it's just basically having a really deep understanding over what happened. And then you don't feel so alone and things just start to make sense. It just starts to make sense. And so that's why I say, like, just kind of normalizing it. Like, yes, we all know that trauma exists. We know that it's various forms of it. Do we have to go around telling everybody every nitty gritty detail? No, but we can say, you know what? Yeah, I dealt with some domestic violence when I was a kid. That's the other thing that I really hope within the communities of color is to really break that. Oh, that was just the way that I was raised. That's how I was taught. That's how we show respect. And because I got hit. And no. That goes way back, generations of trauma. And I will say, like, even back to being slave days, getting whipped and beaten, things like that. And you're seen and not heard. And then we turn around and we raise our children that way. And that's just perpetuating that. And so breaking that cycle is, for me and my family, I'm pretty much the first one that's just like calls it out. I name it. I say, this is what I experienced, or I've mentioned some things to my mom or my brothers. They may not respond. They may not have much to say, but I know they're hearing and I know they're watching. And I know that by me normalizing what happened in our family, by me being willing to talk about it, they know that they can come to me whenever they want. And at the same time, they see the leaps and bounds and how much I've grown and how much better I'm doing now, that I see them also implementing changes in their life, in their self-care, and they're wanting to change their life and just live and experience life differently. And this goes without me even having to say much. So for me, I look at this like by normalizing the conversation around trauma for women, when we start to heal ourselves, we have those conversations amongst each other, we have the ability to heal our families. Then it goes out into our community and then it just blossoms out. It's that ripple, it's that tidal wave, right? It just goes out. So that's why I'm so passionate and why I really do firmly believe that there's an element of great importance in just having a normal conversation about it. And it doesn't have to be all the time, but just
Right.
again, in a place where it is safe, right? Not just with anybody.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I mean, is some of this is just yeah. Instead of keeping it hidden, is what I'm getting from it. It's
Yeah.
like we're able to get healing by allowing ourselves to not make it like I don't know what the way to put it, but like yeah, the sense of I don't know. I'm not I haven't experienced such thing, so I can't say definitively how you would feel. But like if you experience something like that, you tend to want to cover it up.
Yeah.
It's shameful. It's what the way it feels for the victim, right, and things like that. So you would want to try to cover that up, and then a lot of times people have been abused a lot. It can go different ways, but sometimes makes them have a hard exterior. Sometimes there's that mode, right? So they're strong. You'd think like nothing could harm them, but they might have been severely abused in the past, but they seem like, oh my god, that someone, so how could anybody abuse you? You're so strong, that nobody would suspect it. So they feel they have to stay in that strength, and they let their guard down. It's too vulnerable, and they could be hurt again. And that's what comes up when I tune into that, and just think about the people I've met too. So yeah, I think it's so important to realize I think, that for all of us and all these, so many issues of trauma these days. You mentioned, uh, the exiting president and our new president now, but like, yeah, this whole thing of being traumatized, and
Mhm.
so many people are dealing with trauma in so many different ways right now, really. I mean, pretty much everybody, right?
Yeah.
So pretty much everybody in some way. So if you're a white guy and you're a Republican, you're traumatized because you're being told you're a white supremacist and
Yep.
maybe we should kill you, literally. I mean, there's voices out there for that. I mean, it's getting really extreme in so many different ways. So I think the fact that we have safe spaces that like you provide with your services to talk about this and not hide from it. Because a lot of times as a counselor, for example, I remember people would hide from coming into counseling. They didn't want to go there. I just needed to, I can handle this. I got it. Right.
Mhm.
So, and that's, usually is not going to be the best result, for most people. So if people are knowing like, yeah, I know I need to deal with this, I should deal with this, and you're one of the type of people to come to for sure. But then you also deal with the wealth aspect. So I'm kind of curious, like, how do people, what are people thinking when before they work with you? Like when they're like, I need to work with Leah. It's because not just because of the trauma, I'm sure, but it's like so
Mhm.
many things. So what who's like your best clients, like the type of people you work with typically?
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's a very insightful question. And so, what I found, the women that come to me, and I can just give like an example of a very successful client that came to me, and she wanted to be able to not feel so ashamed about her financial situation that nobody knew about. That she felt like, within her family, she was looked at as someone that had it all together, and yet she did not. And so she had a lot of shame in carrying that. She also felt like she wasn't able to have conversations because she lacked financial knowledge or the ability to hold these conversations. And she's a woman that's up in a high management position for in the nonprofit space. And so she's like, I really want to be able to understand why I'm feeling this. I think I have an idea why. And I just want to be able to no longer be so scared about the money that I'm making and what I'm going to be making because my income is going to increase because I'm leaving here and I'm going to start working somewhere else. And I don't understand why I have all of this and I don't want to have it. I don't want to feel this fear anymore, and I want to be able to make decisions. And also a key element too, a lot of the women that come to me for coaching are ones that tend to give their money to loved ones, to members in the community, because again, they're typically the first ones to graduate college, to start a business, the first one to have like made it. And there's a sense of responsibility that I have to take care of my family and my community. And so and it's all wonderful. Yet at the same time, it's coming to the expense of their own detrimental expense financially because they're just pulling out of their own resources and handing it over. So, they're not able to be feeling stable financially. And this is what was happening with this particular client of mine. She had women that she was helping, and they would call her up and she would just boom, give them a bunch of money. And then she'd have to try and figure out her own finances. And it was this whole cycle for herself. And so when she came to me, she just said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to feel this anymore. What do we got to do? And so that's where our journey went. She went through a 12-week coaching program with me, where we did talk about, what was going on with her financially, where she was, where she wanted to be. And then from there, the different questions that I asked, trauma came up. And so then we kind of touched on that. And then from there, we were able to with her, she was able to identify the responses she was having when it came up with money and why. When someone was coming to ask her for money, walking through that whole process, that did happen quite a few times throughout the coaching, so she went from somebody who would automatically give this person money without even looking at her own finances to by the end of the coaching, she's just able to pause and be able to say, hey, you know what, I'll get back to you on that, and then not feel any shame or guilt for saying that, like, no, I'm putting myself first. And then she had her own system down finally, where she knew, how much money's coming in, where it's going. She understood her cash flow. She'd been doing it every week since we met, like managing her money. So she had a designated amount that she totally felt comfortable providing for this individual, and knowing she was still on track financially. She was also able to open up to her partner about some debt that she carried. It wasn't a monstrous amount, but for her, there was so much shame for the debt that she carried. And when in coaching, we found out where that shame came from was because it was accrued from her previous relationship, her partner, who she was a victim of financial abuse, and they ruined her credit. And so she had all this debt. And so for her, she had been carrying that for 13 years. And when she had not ever told anyone, so she told her partner, and it was just a matter of just releasing all of that shame. And that's one of the things that is so key. You mentioned earlier about someone who's dealt with abuse. There's a lot of shame, and there's so much shame in there, especially when it comes to money and the fear that comes with it. And I know I'm not doing something right, something's wrong with me. And really that's where the coaching comes in on the wealth side. So now my client, she totally blew it out of the water. She wanted to buy a home, so she's on track to buying a home. She knows what her credit is, she's got her system down, she's got a new job, her income has gone up, she's fundraising like crazy. And it's just a phenomenal experience to just see how much she was able to accomplish in such a short period of time.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. So you're doing I mean, from what I've heard from the story, it's like trying to put the dots together, so to speak, but you're helping people um to, because there's this connection, all right, so that you're pointing to with what you said. So there's a connection between um dealing with with money, right, and then wealth and money, and then trauma, right? There's a relationship to how how do I build wealth when I'm coming from a foundation of being traumatized. And often, almost in most of those cases, there is this financial trauma around, you're not making any decisions on the money. If you get it wrong, you're going to get hit, or whatever it is. I mean, you get hit one way or another, verbally or physically, so, or both. So yeah, I would think that would freeze people with finances. It also may have them bleeding their cash to people that they're concerned about or want to give money to, but maybe not always in a healthy way. So, could you tell us more about those situations and how you help people through those
Yeah.
things?
Yeah, great question. So when it comes to specifically those who might be bleeding out cash and giving it away, there's usually a deep-rooted reason why. It could vary from maybe that individual grew up in poverty and they didn't know what it was like to have new shoes to go to school, or maybe their family couldn't afford the rent, so they had to move around a lot. And so just that instability and experiencing that themselves, and then as the woman of the family who was the first to graduate college or own a business, they don't want to have their other family members or people in their community experiencing what they experience. So coming from a place of wanting to take care of, that's where that may come from. And some of the women that I do work with, maybe it's something where it's, I define my value and worth in how much I give. And so, the codependency and let me give you this, let me give you this, right? Because that's, if I don't do that, well, then I'm a horrible person, and I'm less than. So I got to like overextend myself. That's another example of that. And so with the coaching that I do is really helping my clients be able to understand what it is that they really ultimately want to experience in life and with their finances and with their what they're trying to accomplish. Oftentimes they are the first ones that are ending the cycle of abuse in their family, and they are the first ones in their family who are speaking the language of literally saying, I want to change my wealth legacy, or I want to create generational wealth. They're typically the only ones in their family who are doing this. So they need a lot of support and a place where they can be able to have somebody like me, where I understand the complexities of what they've endured and what they're trying to accomplish, and then be able to have conversations to create a plan that works for them, they're the expert of their life. And then together, as I'm an accountability partner, start helping them be able to chip away on this plan to learn better habits. And I take a very holistic approach. So it's not just about money, and it's not just about there's various ways of healing from trauma. It could be spiritual, It could be emotional, it could be physical. It just depends on where the person is and what it is in that moment in time that's blocking them from experiencing what they want to experience in the future so they can start to experience that now.
Yeah, so you give them through coaching and talking with them, working through it, and tools and exercises, practices, different things they can do to work through different issues they may have, etc. And then you have it feels like kind of like some of it's systems too, like certain systems to work with their money and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
my idea is like, I mean, it's easy for me to say, and I think, it's a good direction to take for a lot of people. Hey, think about making tons of money, like tons of money so you can, do incredible work to help all those people, a lot more than one or two here or there, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes as urgent as something seems in the world, sometimes we really have to focus on taking care of ourselves first. I know it sounds so horrible sometimes at one level of our mind, but sometimes we do need to do that, because if we don't take care of ourselves, then we don't have much to give. Sure, it helps. Sure, it's so wonderful and compassion. It's so amazing, and yet it's not as much as it could be if you were to take better care of yourself first, and then you could even offer more support. So I love that you are helping people with that. Also, in a sense, with the way you're helping people 100% to build their wealth, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. It's quite a journey. And I take that position with my clients. I always want to know, like, what are you doing to take care of yourself? Be kind to yourself. We do a really good job of beating ourselves up, and other people do a really good job of beating us up too. So, we've really got to learn how to be kind to ourselves and learn to hear what we're saying and how we say it and the words we're using and how we're calling different elements of what we're experiencing into our life, and being able to transform what we're thinking and saying to be able to experience the life that we really want to be able to have, and to have that stability economically, emotionally, spiritually, right? It's all tied together.
yeah, yeah, and because that's what it takes is to break the chain, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
So um, can't keep blaming ourselves, can't keep blaming other people either, right? Instead, we need to do the healing. We need to do the healing, so to speak. We need whatever
Mhm.
that requires for us, but we have to do the healing, and then we have more chances, at least, for there be not only for ourselves to be more whole, but I feel that gives more opportunities for more people to be whole, I believe, from that space. So,
Yep.
so anyway, Leah, thank you so much. And I know uh, you have a wonderful thing you want to offer everybody here.
Yeah.
I believe you had an opportunity you wanted to share with people today. So could you talk to the audience about this opportunity you have for people to connect and to work with you a little bit?
Yes, yes, thank you so much. So right now I do have an 8-week or 12-week coaching program. It's the Wealth Legacy Intensive. It is geared specifically for women of color who want to have a strong desire of ending the enslavement of abuse so they can claim their wealth legacy. And to be able to reach this, they can have my coaching program and go to my website. It's Leah Coaching, Leah coaching.com. And you can click on coaching, and there's a link for the Wealth Legacy Intensive program. You can sign up for a free consultation. It's 1 hour, is no cost to you. I'm not a pushy salesperson either. First of all, I want to make sure we're a good fit before I make an offer. And for the first 3 people who are listening, that go ahead and sign up for a consultation. If you mention Walk Wealth, WOCWEALTH, Walk Wealth, Women of Color Wealth, then I'll go ahead and be able to provide you with 2 free other coaching hours if you move forward with my coaching program.
Oh wow, that's great. That's generous. That's a really great offer. So
Yeah.
we're gonna put this in the show notes for those that want to take
Yeah.
advantage. Um, we have the code in there and everything for you.
Great.
So
Thank you.
yeah, so reach out to Leah at leahcoaching.com. And you know, yeah, no matter when you hear this offer, just I know it's for the first three of the complimentary consultation here, but reach out, get the help, and
Yeah.
go from there. So,
Yeah.
all right. So Leah, my heart pours out to you and everybody that is dealing with these things. And the good news is you're an example of someone that has been part of the breaking free. I don't think any of us typically have completely arrived, so to speak, as long as we're still here on Earth. But I mean, you've really done incredible things, in your life, and really demonstrated what's possible. And you're helping so many people just even by doing what you're doing here today. Even you're really doing the work. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate being able to have the opportunity to elevate the voices of women of color today by sharing my experience and the work that I do. I'm here. That's right. I exist. Thank you so much.
Yes, totally. And you're meant to shine with your work. So what I like to do is what I like to do for my guests is to offer a quick tune in. So if I could tune in your energy for a minute or two and just share any things that come through and um, to support you on your path. Are you ready to receive?
Totally. Let's go for it. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, so here we go. Yeah, same word came back. Now I don't know. Like I get words and I don't know what they mean, but the word coming through, I keep getting Xanadu, Xanadu. So I don't know why, but I do know why. I mean, I keep getting like some of it's like this sort of energy of being like this enlightened wealth warrior or something like that. I mean, so the more you can embrace yourself as an enlightened wealth warrior, I'm not great. I don't love the war idea, but sometimes that sense of strength, is really what we're getting at with the warrior thing. Like strength. Yeah, I am here. I am here. It doesn't have to be about anger. It's just a firmness. I am here, and I'm ready. I'm ready, and just even more of that I think would be good. And I think the more you can trust that, the better. And so yeah, so that's important, I think, for you and your tribe. And let's see if get some other things coming forth. Just that you have some magical energy. You have magical energy. You can bring blessings and miracles to others. So the more you're perpetually working on your energy to be in that simultaneously, it sounds like almost a contradiction, but that lightness that you can get into, the more magic and miracles and grace you can bring into other people's lives and of course into your own. But so I feel like you have a transmission of grace and things when people come to you, that you're in a connected place. The more, because if we've had, all of us that have had trauma, there's part of us that it's still there, right? Every like even in this interview, like myself, I probably at some point in the interview said, "Am I safe? Am I safe?" We all have that question. I think it's really powerful to say that right now. Actually, like, wow, that's like a reveal, like to consider for everybody. Like, you have that thought like throughout the day, and but like what you bring to people is that they are safe. So when they're constantly, "Am I safe? Am I safe?" And then you're there to help them realize that they are safe, and that there's a grace, there's protection, there's a safe place for them. And the magic's going to happen. The magic's going to happen for their life and for the wealth. And I feel like you're connected to that. And the more you continue to do your work to clear whatever vestiges of trauma patterns, you just continue to even be stronger at that, even stronger, and be able to help more people. So anyway, so that's what I had to share for today.
Thank you. I like that warrior part.
Yes, 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 yes. I love it. I love it. Okay, great. Great. So all right, and then if anybody who wants to check me out, you can go to yoursacredpurpose.com, and there is an opportunity for an energy scan consultation there you can take advantage of. There's also free meditation, Meditate and Make Money, which helps open up your energy and your chakras and helps you to ask those questions each day to tune in and really just see what's going to unfold. And I guess I keep saying it each show, but it's true. I have people that tell me they add the meditation. Maybe they were stuck financially. All of a sudden, things start changing. They're making more money, and they keep making more money, and they keep listening, and they're making more money, and they just keep listening. So, again, like part of our mission here is to say it's possible, it's available, it could be, there is a grace, there is an ease, there is a place where this is happening, and so check it out, yoursacredpurpose.com. Okay, Leah, so we're going to give you the last words here. So, yeah, any last thoughts you want to share with the listeners today?
I guess it's just to want to say that you are loved and you are held in this love and light. And no matter where you are on your healing journey, today is another day to just go ahead and step into your greatness, and everything, absolutely everything that you want in your life is possible. And you can start today. Yeah.
Yes, 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 right now. Okay, okay, all right. So thank you, Leah, so much for everything you share, and people circulate this show. Like I actually never say this at the end of shows. This is the first time I've done this on the show. Circulate this show with everybody. Like, just why not? This is a type of show we want to share with as many people as possible. We want to help as many people as possible with. So share this show with other people, please. It's important. We want to get the message out there. So I'll leave it at that. Yeah, and as always, just thank you again, Leah. And as always, as I always wrap up this show, I just keep on tuning in here, folks, and we'll keep on rocking it here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Okay, till the next time, everyone. Goodbye for now.
You're listening to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Wednesday and Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.